Witajcie w 7. odcinku I Smell Music, podcastu, w którym wraz z moimi gośćmi eksploruję fascynujący świat muzyki. Jeśli kochacie muzykę, niezależnie od gatunku, a do tego lubicie słuchać ciekawych historii nietuzinkowych ludzi, to jest to miejsce dla Was. Pamiętajcie, aby koniecznie zasubskrybować, czy to na YouTubie, czy na platformie audio, na której słuchacie podcastów. Pamiętajcie również, by na przesłuchaniu, tudzież na obejrzeniu odcinka się nie skończyło. Dajcie kciuk w górę, zostawcie komentarz, dajcie 5 gwiazdek, wystawcie pozytywną opinię, pomóżcie mi przekonać algorytm, że warto podsuwać I Smell Music coraz to nowym ludziom. Do tego jeszcze jedna gorąca prośba. Jeśli podoba Wam się to, co tu robię, udostępnijcie też to dalej swoim znajomym, na przykład na Facebooku, to też bardzo pomoże. Pamiętajcie też, żeby śledzić mnie na mediach społecznościowych, na Facebooku, Instagramie. Linki znajdziecie w opisie tego nagrania. A dzisiejszy odcinek będzie wyjątkowy pod pewnym względem, a mianowicie cała rozmowa odbyła się w języku angielskim. Po raz pierwszy na tym podcaście. W momencie, kiedy to kręcę, ten wstęp, jeszcze nie wiem, czy będą napisy, więc jeśli nie, no to słuchajcie, słowniki w dłoń, bo szkoda byłoby przegapić ten odcinek tylko przez język angielski. A to dlatego, że moim dzisiejszym gościem jest mój kolega Paul O'Reilly, osoba stojąca za jednoosobowym dream-popowym projektem PJOS, a do tego twórca szaty graficznej tego podcastu. Mój gość zabierze Was do swojej rodzinnej Brazylii, opowie arcyciekawą historię tego, jak znalazł się w naszym kraju. Dowiemy się, jaką muzyką nasiąkał jako dziecko, jak towarzyszyła mu ona od małego, a na koniec skupimy się na wspomnianym projekcie PJOS, 2 wydanych singlach, procesie twórczym i planach na przyszłość. Zostańcie z nami, bo rozmowa jest naprawdę fascynująca, ani się obejrzeliśmy, kiedy zleciały prawie 2 godziny. A zatem, powitajcie proszę, po raz pierwszy w I Smell Music, Paul O'Reilly. I jeszcze jedna istotna informacja na sam początek. StreamYard, czyli platforma streamingowa, której używam do nagrywania spotkań z moimi gośćmi, zrobiła mi małego psikusa, a mianowicie, nie wiedzieć czemu, dźwięk po mojej stronie zbierany był nie z mojego głównego mikrofonu, a z mikrofonu w laptopie. I przez to dźwięk po mojej stronie, to co ja mówię, jest trochę takie niewyraźne momentami, lekko dudniące, lekko zniekształcone. Da się usłyszeć echa z pomieszczenia. Bardzo Was za to przepraszam. Nie wiem, jak to się stało. Na tyle, na ile mogłem, na tyle, na ile pozwolił mi czas i moje umiejętności obróbki dźwięku, starałem się jakoś to wygładzić. To, co najważniejsze, mojego gościa słychać wyraźnie, dobrze, głośno, także to jest najistotniejsze, bo to, co ja tam gadam, to wiecie, to tam nieistotne jest. Także jeszcze raz przepraszam i teraz już przechodzimy do mojego gościa. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Tomek.
I'm very grateful that you agreed to my invitation. So welcome to I Smell Music. Really happy to have you here. And before we start, taking the opportunity that we're here and we've got all the viewers and the listeners, because if people stick to the end credits, they may have already seen your name, but if they don't, and they might not necessarily, then they need to know that you are actually the person who is responsible for the whole graphic design of I Smell Music. So here I want to take the opportunity to thank you again very, very much from the bottom of my heart, because what you did for me is, it's awesome. It looks awesome. And actually, if it hadn't been for you, the podcast wouldn't have lifted off the ground when it did. So thank you again, because there was the idea, the concept, everything, but you helped bring this to life with the look. So thank you very much.
No, man, I'm really happy to hear that. Thanks for inviting me, and yeah, I was happy to help and happy to see that the podcast is running and is going well. So I'm really happy to see that.
Thank you again. And actually, you're helping me conduct kind of an experiment today, because this is actually the first time that it's the first episode that is not in Polish. In the short history of this podcast, but history nonetheless, this is the first time. And yeah, I mean, I hope it catches on, and I do have some ideas for the future, ideas slash dreams of other people who are also not, Polish speakers joining this podcast. But this is the first time, and I hope I hope it works out well. So to all of you who are listening, I hope you got your dictionaries handy. Anyway, so Paul, the let's say the tradition. This is the seventh episode, so I guess I can call it a tradition already. So
Mhm.
the tradition of this podcast is every time I have a guest, I ask them what they're currently listening to, what they have been recently listening to. So if I could learn what is currently Paul O'Reilly listening to.
Two things mostly. One of them is silence, because when probably we're gonna touch this topic later on, but now that I'm producing my own music, I really need some pause on everything that that on all kinds of music and this. Usually I listen to music every day, but after listening to the same song hundreds of times while producing, I really need some pause, you know. And this time is finishing now, so I'm going back at this moment to my normal listening habits. And I'm listening to dream pop again, which is my favorite genre and my own genre. Um, I'm listening again to slow dive, parks, squares, and alleys. Um, what else? Beach house. So yeah, such bands, and also a grouper, some a bit more obscure shoegaze, dream pop stuff. So yeah, that's what's going on right now.
I gotta tell you that those genres are completely unknown to me. So yeah, I think you provide me with the names of the bands. I'm gonna, of course, as always, post that in the description of the episode. But I think I'm gonna have to try it out because I guess the only songs out of that genre that I know are your songs. It's probably the case. So I'm gonna have to try some of that. Um, okay. Anything else? Any classical music that you're listening to? Any symphony stuff like that? By any
um,
chance? By some
you know,
weird
there,
coincidence?
there are some moments when I have the opportunity to watch my
Hmm.
partner Sabrina, which was which was on your podcast.
Yes.
And yeah, when she conducts or she has some concerts, and yeah, we go together, I go to watch her, and yeah, I'm also listening to that with great pleasure from time to time.
So, Paul, I know that you're probably sick and tired of this question, and I think you know what that question is. Maybe not a question. It's not actually a question. It's a request. You're
Mhm.
probably sick and tired of this. Either it's being formulated as a question or as a request. But the nature of this podcast, and this is something that I always is my, let's say, opening catchphrase, that if you love music, regardless of the genre, and you like to listen to stories of, interesting people, then this is a place for you. And your story, to me, is incredibly interesting and very inspiring, I would say. And so it fits so well into the podcast where we talk about music, music as a passion, as a kind of a way of living. Then I this my what I do here, I think, would be incomplete without being able to tell your story. So
Mm.
I know it because you've told me it, but I think the people deserve to listen to it as well, because I think it's, to me, it's fascinating, and I'm going to comment on it a bit after you're done. But
Mhm.
if you could please indulge me and my viewers and listeners in telling us, how did it happen that you traveled all the way from where you come from to
From
here,
Brazil.
and that you stay
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Where did this teleport come from?
Whoa. So, also, I'm thankful that you have this, long uh, uh, length podcast, let's say, the format, so I can go into a bit more detail than I usually do when people ask me.
Awesome.
So, um, it all started in 2002. I was watching the MTV Europe Music Awards back in Brazil, where I'm from. And there's a part of this show where they display the best bands of different parts of Europe. And that was like best Polish band, and they played 5 seconds of a Myslovic song. And it was Dream Sellers, the English version of Sprzedawcy Marzeń. And that 5 seconds were enough to something, it touched me somehow, you know. I have it. I still have it recorded in VHS. Actually, the show, and I was revisiting to to get the names of the bands and so on. And 2002. It was like dial-up internet still. That's what I had, and I was
Yeah.
searching for music, like how to download and trying to find a way to listen to the songs. It was quite difficult. It took me some time. But then I had a set of songs that I listened to, and that was something that in 2002 I was like 19 years old, and I was forming my musical identity, let's say, and that just fitted so perfectly. I felt a connection to that, and the connection was so big that I decided to start a Brazilian fan club for Myslovic.
Mhm.
And I wrote an email to the management. I found their website, wrote an email to the management. It took them a month to reply, and they were super excited. And they sent me some material, digital material, but also physical. They sent me CDs, a T-shirt, and some postcards with the photos of band members. That was super cool. So I started to work. I made a small website for Myslovic Brazil. That's the name of the fan club, and I was the only member for some time. Yeah, it was like I think it was quite bizarre, like a Brazilian fan club of a Polish band. And what actually happened is that this fan club, it wasn't really a Brazilian fan club, but it was rather a hub for international fans that didn't
Mhm.
speak Polish, and they were coming to my website that had an English version as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, and this way I started to talk with fans from all around the world. Like Myslovic had fans at that time in United States, Australia, Germany, Chile, yeah, you name it, Costa Rica. So there were some crazy people like me around the world, and we were writing to each other and so on. And yeah, that's how Myslovic Brazil turned out. Um, and this also started to get me interested in the country, not only on the band itself, but also in Poland. I was talking, of course, also with Polish fans that they were like super happy and super amazed that there was a guy in Brazil that was running such a website, such fan club. So they were asking me like, what do you know about Poland? Do you want to come here? And don't do that. It's terrible here. That classic Polish mindset, I guess. But I got curious naturally about the country, um, but I still couldn't afford such trip. And it was back in the early 2000s, it was way more expensive than it is now. So I just couldn't do that. Couldn't come here to visit and see the band and visit the country. That happened after 12 years, 12 years after I started the fan club, so 2014.
Mhm.
During this time, can imagine 12 years, so many things happened. even thought about shutting down the fan club because it just doesn't make sense, or just life is happening, and you think that you're changing your priorities and so on. But somehow it stayed. Like Mislovitz was the one solid and constant thing in my life during all this more than a decade. Um, and then the time had come in 2014. I bought my tickets to visit Poland and meet the band as well. I took an airplane to Wrocław, and then I went to Gdańsk, here where I live now as well, Warsaw, Sosnowiec, of course, Katowice, and Mysłowice. So that was my road trip around Poland. And it was actually in Mysłowice and then in Sosnowiec, because the band, as I think most of you know, is from Silesia, is from Mysłowice. And I finally met the band, and that was like, the whole thing was crazy, like every city that I was arriving to, the fans were coming and taking care of me, showing me the city. Like it was like a gang all around the country, just taking care of me, and we're hanging out. And finally, it was September, 12th of September 2014. I met Myslovitz for the first time in the rehearsal room, and yeah, it's hard to put into words how I felt, because after so many years, I'm seeing the guys like in front of me. We had a meeting with fans as well, in a pub in Sosnowiec. And yeah, that was my first contact with Poland and with the band. But something happened during this trip. I didn't mention Krakow. I was in Krakow as well, and it was exactly in Krakow when I was coming back from the laundry house that I took my clothes there in the middle of the trip. I was just walking with my clothes under my under my arms, and I was looking around like a local, and I felt it, like, okay, this is my place in the world. This is where I should have been born. It's, a lot of people ask me, like, but why Poland? Like, why did you decide? Like, I could give you a lot of rational reasons why Poland, in my opinion, is better for me than Brazil, but it was just a feeling, just a feeling that here is where I belong.
Mhm.
And yeah, I went back to Brazil after this 2 weeks trip through Poland. I was feeling very sad that I had to leave the country. I felt like, okay, I found my place in the world. Like, why am I back here in a place that I don't really like to be? So I was like, talking with my friends, drinking Vishnyuvka, uh, and trying to find a place, like another place, but a chance, an opportunity to come back to Poland, like, but to stay. I wondered how to do that. And in one of those, you can call it coincidences in life, I met with a friend that we met before because of Myslovitz, many years before because of Myslovitz. And then she told me that was 1 week after I came back to Brazil from Poland. And she said, look, yesterday my friend started a service that helps Brazilian people to migrate to Poland. So, yeah. And I was probably his first customer. But yeah, it was like an agent, he would check all the possibilities, legal possibilities to help someone who wants to migrate. And he had people here in Poland who would like be a proxy to rent a flat, for example. Like, I could do everything from Brazil, so such kind of service. And then we found a way. I signed up for a Polish language course for 1 year, and that gave me the right to have a visa, for a temporary visa for 1 year. So 4 months later, I was 4 months after I visited Poland, I was back here to stay, And of course, my goal wasn't just to stay this year. I wanted to stay for good. So I was searching for a job. It took me a while to set everything up because, you can imagine I had to pack my whole life in 2 bags and move to another continent. So I really didn't have time to prepare myself on the professional side there in Brazil. But so here also I was settling down. I was also going to every single Myslovitz concert in that year
Mm-hmm.
because I decided that, man, like more than 12 years away from my favorite band, now I'm gonna get every opportunity to watch them.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to set up portfolio and everything, but then when everything was set up, I sent my CVs, and in 2 weeks I had a job offer to work in Poznan
Mm-hmm.
as art director in an advertisement agency.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked quite well. Also on the Myslovitz side, because the crazy guy from Brazil is following us and so on. So I actually became friends with them. They invited me to play with them on stage quite a few times. With exactly the same song that was the first one that I listened to, Sprzedawcy Marzeń. So they invited me to play with them this song. Um, so yeah, now I'm here. I moved from from Wrocław to Poznań, and now I am in Gdańsk. I still go to Myslovitz concerts from time to time. I still have contacts with them, personal contact with the guys from the band. So yeah, that's the a bit longer story, longer version of the story that I'm used to tell. Yeah.
Man, I mean, talk about the universe directing you in a certain to a certain goal, right? First, you hear the song, you get hooked on immediately, and then you arrive here to visit the country, and there's this feeling something tells you, yep, stay here. And then all those little coincidences that made you finally, settle down here. Um, when you first met Miss Lovitz, that was 2014, right?
Yes.
Um, was that because I don't follow the band? I could probably hum two or three songs by Miss Lovitz and that's it. But when you met them, was Artur Rojek still in the band, or was it after he had left?
It was after he left. He left in
Oh,
2012.
okay.
So at that time, Michał Kowalonek was the singer.
Hmm. Okay. And going back to that, to the initial contact with their music, that 5 seconds that you mentioned, what was it about the music? What was it in that 5 seconds that caught on so well? What was it?
Look, it wasn't until 2017
Hmm.
that I actually understood why.
Oh.
So here's another story. In 2017, I went to Tromsø, north of Norway,
Yeah.
for the first time to see the Northern Lights, and I booked an Airbnb there. Um,
Hmm.
Traveled the whole day, like stopping in Oslo and so on. So yeah, I got there around midnight, and this crazy Airbnb lady, the owner of the house, she asked me like, "Oh, hi, where are you from?" And from Brazil, and you live in Poland. What's going on? And then I told her um, a bit of my story, and she proceeded to keep me hostage in her living room for until 2 a.m., showing me songs from that area of Norway, which was amazing. It was like I have songs until now that bands that I discovered and songs that I really like. I was extremely tired, of course, after traveling the whole day, but it was quite a nice experience. But what I noticed on the following days when I went to the city and I was looking around the landscape and feeling the city is that all that music sounded like that area, like what I was looking for.
Hmm.
And this is also when I realized that Myslovitz sounds like Poland, from the 90s, from the 2000s.
Hmm.
And I believe that what I had was a connection to Poland through Myslowic. I felt that, that landscape through their music, that it was Korowe Milky Bar album at that time, so that kind of melancholy grayness of Polish, like Silesia, and at that time, like 90s, 2000s, and that really resonated with me. And yeah, I guess that was the thing that that connected me, and in the end, it all made sense when I came to Poland and I felt home, and it was a connection that was made back then, through Myslowic.
Man, it's really incredible. But there is something about it, which you just said, that sometimes you hear a song and it sounds like a place,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes I sometimes fall victim to the cover art. So I look at the cover and I think it somehow directs my brain into thinking a certain way, and when I hear the music, I maybe feel more than I would have if I hadn't looked at the cover, that the images that are that appear in my head correspond to the cover, and if the cover shows something in particular, that kind of makes me feel that the music also corresponds to certain visuals, a certain place. But there is something about music sometimes that you just feel that it's a place. It kind of describes a place, shares the aura of a place with sounds, with notes. So I totally understand that. And because you saying that Myslowic sounded like Poland is actually a great opportunity for me to segue to a topic that I had on my list. But before we get to it, there is one other thing that we need to start off with, in order to get to that proper one. So I wanted to ask you, Brazil. If 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 I hear the word Brazil and I think the statistical citizen of Poland, when we hear Brazil, what comes to mind? Well, first and foremost, football, right? Brazil equals football, pretty much.
Yeah.
But what else? You got the Amazon jungle, right? You got coffee. You got the carnival in Rio. You got the samba, the Copacabana beach, and you've got the statue of Jesus watching over Rio. So I guess that's the 7, 8 to maybe 10 attributes of Brazil that the typical Pole would be able to list. Maybe also crime. But here's the question: hearing these couple of things that I mentioned, how much do you think of that is a stereotype, and maybe a hurtful stereotype towards Brazil, or maybe an ignorant stereotype because there's much more? Or is that actually what the essence of Brazil? Those couple of things, because I know that this is not a musical topic just yet. It's around music, but I'm very, very curious to to understand whether our perception, such a limited, how accurate is our limited perception of Brazil when when it's these things that I've mentioned, and how does it sound to you as a native Brazilian?
In a way that it's like it's not false that it's a stereotype, yeah, but football, jungle, like it's and also violence, unfortunately, carnival. These are things that happen and they're part of the everyday life in Brazil. But I think that important thing to mention is how Brazil sells itself outside of the country, and there's also this image of constant party and happiness is like a tropical paradise and so on. And this couldn't be further from the truth if you are a citizen. One thing that really impressed me about Poland is that here there is no like a separate path or makeup for tourists. Like, you go to the main cities here and you have the touristical places. I don't know, you go here in Gdańsk, you have the city center, the Długa Street, and so on. And these are places that the locals also use. They walk there when they go to work, when they go to party, and so on. And it's not separate for tourists. But in Brazil, there is such thing. Like, there is this separation of the cities and the life that you have in your normal daily life as a citizen, and the tourist experience, where it's a bit safer, where it's a bit prettier and nicer, and so on. And it's a makeup. This for sure. Football is, of course, is the national sport. I'm gonna warn already. I'm not your regular Brazilian. I'm not like into football at all, and I'm not into carnival at all. Like, it's a big party, but yeah, these are the things that are sold outside. But yeah, and another thing that I can mention that you said about crime and violence and so on, and this is a very heavy topic. As I mentioned, if you're a tourist, you have a kind of a privileged experience, which is a bit safer. But on your regular life, you have to really be careful. Like, and this is something that is really amazing about Poland. Here, I don't need to look around when I take my phone out of my pocket just to check if there is a message. In Brazil, this doesn't exist. Like, you have to look around, and if there's anything slightly suspicious, you enter a store to look at your phone, for example. It's not like, there's no freedom in this sense. You're constantly watching around to see if there is no threat. So that's quite a big thing. Yeah.
Okay. So, having said that, and this is the topic that I wanted to segue to after what you've said, that when you were in Tromsø, the music from there sounded like that part of Norway, and Myslovic sounded like Poland. When we talk about Brazilian music, and I guess let's talk about contemporary Brazilian music, how do you feel, or how do you feel that the culture of Brazil, the political situation there, the crime, the separation of the rich from the poor, so you have this contrast of wealth and poverty being close to each other. I think if I remember correctly, you said that you lived very close to a favela, right? So you've
Yes.
got probably a wall, and on one hand, on one side of the wall, you have extreme poverty. On the other side, you have normal, or maybe even wealthy life. How does all of that? How do you think all of that um, is kind of imprinted into contemporary Brazilian music? Can you feel all those things, the contrasts, the paradoxes in contemporary Brazilian music?
Here, I'll tell you that I'm sorry, but I don't follow Brazilian music actually, and I'm
Okay.
not familiar with contemporary music. But I can use this opportunity to mention something else.
Hmm.
My father was a singer,
Hmm.
in professional singer, and I had constant interactions with few of the biggest, greatest musicians in the country when I was a child and a teenager, And now we can go back in time a little bit because, my father was born in 1925.
I'm sorry,
And
Paul. Just one question. Have you
yeah,
hacked my computer?
why?
Have you seen my script, my notes for this
No.
episode? Because actually
Maybe I think
everything that
there's a
you
mirror up behind you. I read everything.
damn it. Shit. Yeah, because you are, point for point going exactly through my list of the topics that I wanted to talk about. But okay, sorry for that interruption. Please continue.
That's good. So, Um, yeah, so yeah, going back in time because my father was born in 1925, and probably you're doing the math and realizing that my father has a similar age as your grandfather, or even older than him.
Yes. So
But yeah,
either you are I don't know, using some weird Amazonian medicine, or you are I don't know, well, you're a zombie with a nice makeup. I don't know. You should be far older, man. You should be far
yeah,
older.
yeah. That's some Brazilian secret. I'm not gonna share it here now. Maybe another time.
Okay, maybe next time.
Yeah. So being old as he was, like, and starting so like early, mid last century. Um, yeah, that's one thing. Like, I really skipped one generation in terms of education. That's another thing. But also, I could see a bigger contrast of how things were in terms of music and culture as well to how it is now.
Mhm.
The kind of music that my father was singing is called seresta. Seresta is like, it's a genre that came from that serenades, like, the man is going at night under the woman's window with a
Mhm.
guitar and singing his love for her. So it's a genre that came from this kind of music. And yeah, when you listen to the lyrics, when you listen to the drama that is imprinted on in these melodies and in these lyrics, like, I'm gonna literally die if you're not gonna be with me, so, such things, but in a poetry that is in such a high level, like a high level that I don't see that anywhere from many years already, like that high level poetry in that lyrics, that was something special and interesting. Is a whole like culture from middle of mid last century in Brazil,
Mhm.
up until the maybe 60s 70s. It was still kind of popular, and then there was kind of a revolution. Had other kind of genres like bossa nova, samba. They got a bit more mainstream, and then I'm not gonna mention what's going on now because the mainstream is something that is completely, yeah, I can't even describe, but yeah, it's something that unfortunately shows um, how society is getting worse. Actually, they're like, the lyrics are all about sex and drugs, but in a really vulgar and simple way, like the most simple that you can
Mhm.
imagine. Like,
Mhm.
the words that are used, the situations described is like, can't go lower than that. Like,
Mhm.
probably can, but
Yeah.
it's difficult to imagine.
Yeah, I
um
think I know what you mean. No subtleties, no romance, no room for interpretation, for your imagination to play
mhm,
in some creative way. It's just stick this and that, and yeah, and
mhm.
get fucking wasted.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty much it. People complain about a lot about disco polo in Poland, and I
mhm,
get it, but it's still few levels lower than that. What's going on there, like in this sense? So yeah, you can
mhm,
imagine.
mhm. So, to kind of continue on the topic of your dad and your your childhood. So, other than the genre of music that your dad was playing, what other childhood memories of your first interactions with music do you have? How did it? Where did it all start? Because or maybe not because. How did it all start? And we're going to get to your musical project in a second, but
Hmm.
just to have a full picture, I'm wondering those early memories, those things that you heard when you were a child. Did any of that, does that still have an influence on you right now? Do you by chance listen to the stuff that you discovered when you were a kid, or has it completely changed until now?
how it all started. Like basically when I was born, as I mentioned, my father was a professional singer, and he was quite active until his death, really.
Mm-hmm.
So basically every day my father was singing or learning songs or listening to things that he wants to sing or he just enjoys. So it was like a daily experience since I was born, really. This to be immersed in music in this way, and not only with the songs, but also the whole experience of my father was taking me to his concerts since I was a very small kid. And not only concert, but that was something quite interesting that he used to organize. It was like musical lunchtime, something like that. So once a month, they rented a big salon, and yeah, there was like some food, and there were a lot of artists going there, and people were eating and hanging out, and there was a table at the front with a lot of musicians, and people were going there and singing few songs during this, I don't know, 3-4 hours. Um, and that was something that as soon as I could, I was able to, my father involved me on that in terms of helping to organize. I was like the guy that was sitting at the front and getting the tickets, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that everyone paid and so on, and kind of organizing in this way. And also as early as I was able to as well, I was actually um, I was operating the sound system, the whole sound system, and we were talking about like stuff that my father had from the 60s and 70s, and it's like that huge mixing desk, like the two people had to carry that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So such heavy, solid old stuff, and I was connecting all the cables and monitoring all levels so the sound would be fine. So yeah, that was basically my life as a teenager with him. So and fast forward a little bit, when I had this chance to hang out with Myslovitz and play with Myslovitz, the stage was natural to me because it's
Mm-hmm.
my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally raised in this environment, so just being on the stage to me is like, okay, just I know the place. It's my place
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you talk about influence like that, I think that had a very deep influence in me in terms of musicality itself, like that my brain works in terms of music, and how music is important, maybe the most important thing in my life, and that touches me deep inside. So since also since this time, I was every free time I had at home, I was stacking that all that music equipment, the cassette recorders and everything, vinyls, and I was making mixtapes, and I
Mm-hmm.
was pretending that I had my own radio station, getting the
Mm-hmm.
microphone and recording everything on tape. So that was my way to have fun at that time, and you see everything around music, really.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's deeply imprinted in me because of this time.
Wow, it's incredible. Yeah, so not any genre in particular, not any particular type of music per se, but just the aura, right? So the lifestyle, kind of like music, um, you absorbing the music and the whole feel of making it and being yeah submerged in it and then becoming a vessel for it yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
pretty
one
incredible.
thing that also is cool to mention, because my father was also working as like he was organizing some discotheques,
Hmm.
so he had literally hundreds of vinyls
Wow,
in the attic.
wow.
And I was going through all of that and listening to everything. I had my favorites, but as I mentioned earlier, it took me some time to form my own music identity, like what kind of music that I like, and this happened in my late teenage years, thanks to MTV mostly, also. But yeah,
When they still
that's
played music.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
20 something years ago.
Mm.
So yeah, that I was really surrounded by all of that, and I had access to such things, and yeah, that was like super fun and really created all this identity, musical identity in me.
Wow. I mean, my parents, when I was growing up, my parents had a couple of dozen of vinyl records, and I thought that was a lot.
Mm.
But hundreds, that's just unfathomable to me. So, as being the type of musical, having these musical tastes. So, to those of you who are listening, I've got a T-shirt with the Grim Reaper, with death, with a scythe, riding a unicorn over a rainbow with death metal written across the T-shirt. So a very nice combination of cute and deadly. Being a metalhead, I, out of curiosity, I want to ask you about one thing, because don't know whether you know it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, but Brazil has a very, very prominent heavy metal scene, and actually one of the most popular, the most iconic heavy metal bands of all time actually comes from Brazil. It's Sepultura,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, means a tomb in
Tomb, yeah,
Portuguese.
exactly.
Grave, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Sepultura.
Yeah.
So you have bands like Sepultura who are actually going on their farewell tour. They're gonna be calling it quits, unfortunately. But also Sarcophago, the death metal titans from Crisium, for example. And you've got also at least two very, very, very good bands, all female metal bands right now, Crypta and Nervosa. But band names aside, have you ever been in any way exposed to the Brazilian heavy metal scene, either directly or by some friends who are metalheads? Have you ever come in contact, and were you ever aware of how big and prominent and productive this scene was and still is?
No.
No.
Okay, let me.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to
I was
put
counting on
some more.
something slightly longer than just a no, but if that's a no, that's a no.
No, I'll try to put more context. This is unfortunately really not. I'm not familiar with metal at all, but as a Brazilian and music fan, of course, Sepultura is like is a household name.
Okay.
Everyone knows it, and I had friends who listened to them, but it was never my kind of music.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I heard something about Crypta. I think they. I'm maybe I'm mistaken with another band. Don't know if they came from some TV show. I don't know, but yeah, there was. I heard something about it on the internet, but
Hmm.
um,
No, it's actually
yeah.
they're not a product. It's so
Okay,
there
okay.
was one band called Nervosa. There were three
Mm-hmm.
Brazilian girls who were playing thrash metal. At some point, two of them left the band, the singer slash bassist and the drummer, and they formed their own thing, which is called Crypta. And
Okay.
for a while, they had one guitar player who was Dutch, but now it's back to being all Brazilian. So two guitars, bass, drums, your
Mm-hmm.
classical setup, and it's all Brazilian. I've actually
Okay.
missed them. They were playing a gig. I think it was in April in Warsaw. Unfortunately, wasn't able to go and see them, but yeah, they're pretty good. I actually mentioned them as one of my honorable mentions on my um, uh, top 15 of 2023. Pretty cool. Okay, so no metal. Like let's move.
Yeah, but you know that I think it worth to mention here, because you know when I think about Sepultura and my friends that were listening to them,
Hmm.
that kind of reminds me my brief passage through the university
Hmm.
when I tried to study physics
Hmm.
and failed. But that was quite a great time in terms of you know also forming my music taste and having contact with other people who were like huge music fans. And there was a room for students to hang out in the university from the physics course, and there was a stereo in there. And
Hmm.
you know you could just walk in and put your CD there and listen to anything you wanted. And yeah, I have memories of people putting all kinds of music in there, including Sepultura, for example, other
Hmm.
metal stuff. So it was quite eclectic, and but more driven towards hard rock, I would say,
Hmm.
that time. So it really reminds me of that time. Yeah, it was quite nice time actually.
Cool. It's actually thanks to Max Cavalera, the founder of Sepultura, but not Sepultura songs per se. But when he left the band in '96, he formed his own thing. It was called Soulfly, still is. And thanks to him, I learned. So you pretty much know my Portuguese vocabulary. Half of it is swear words. So the swear words I learned from Max Cavalera when he was in Soulfly, because
Mhm.
he included all the caralhos and the other words. Anyway,
Mhm.
okay. So now we get to it's high time we get to your music,
Mhm.
your um, your how do you say it? How to call it? I'm actually missing the English word right now. I just have the Polish autorska, your own music, um,
Mhm.
because PJOS is the correct way to pronounce it, right?
Yes.
But
Perfect.
in
Mhm.
order to decipher the name of your musical project, we would
Mhm.
have to go into detail of your full name.
Mhm.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
so
have enough
Brazilian.
time?
We still have time, Paul. We still have time.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you know, it all goes back to the fact that my father was born in 1925. You know, there are a lot of, you know, consequences of that. And
Mhm.
one thing that we got from the Portuguese was super long names, you know, compound names.
Yeah.
There were like people like a couple of centuries ago that had like, I don't know, more than 20 names. Like, you know, their full names are like compound of 20 or something names. If you look at from that perspective, mine is not that bad. It's only five. So uh,
Yes, it is actually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you know,
I thought it was
uh,
longer. Don't know why.
no, that's what she said. So
You got me, motherfucker.
yeah,
Good one. Good
but
one.
yeah, but and it is a surprise that in Poland you have basically two names, or sometimes you have the middle name as well, but you can go by only two names. That was a surprise as well. But yeah, my full name then is Paulo. No, Paul is a nickname. I go by Paul, but the official name is Paulo Julio Aureli de Souza Pedrosa. So the initials are PJOSP. And when I was searching for a name for my music project, I thought for a long time about many different things. But wait, let me look in myself. Maybe I have something, you know. So I initially thought about using Piosp, but it
Mhm.
sounded too much like kiosk, so I just removed the last letter. And I think Pios sounds better, and it was like not used at all.
Mhm.
And that was also surprising, like such a short name and only four letters. And yeah, and then I adopted Pios.
And also, it looks very nice in the logo that you created. It's it feels just right. The four letters,
Hmm.
but the four
Yeah.
letters would be nothing without the music. So,
Mm.
where did the idea for your own project? Where did the idea for PJOS? Uh, where did it come from? How did you come up with that? And how long was it in the making before you set the date? Okay, this is when I start. This is when it gets an official name. I start making music under this moniker, and yeah, here's
Mhm.
the there we go.
That was a long, long journey.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna mention my father once again,
Hmm.
because yeah, there were a lot of positives in our relationship. He was the one who gave me the music.
Hmm.
But I think in every kind of relationship, there's also the bad, there's the good and the bad, and it wasn't easy. Also, I mentioned that I skipped a generation in terms of my own education and the way I was raised, and that also means that I had it much tougher than my friends. For example,
Hmm.
you know, Brazil, beginning of last century, it was very common to use a lot of violence at home. So
Hmm.
that was the kind that's how it was. It wasn't only my father, like it was like that. That was the
Hmm.
reality, and I got something from that from in my childhood. So I had music in me, but I had this internal conflict that I didn't really want to be like my father.
Hmm.
So I felt that I wanted to sing. I wanted to do something since I was a teenager, since on my 20s. I felt that something was there, but it was blocked. I
Hmm.
felt that it was blocked. I could never just put it in the surface ever because just I didn't want to be like him in this sense.
Hmm.
Um, it took me a long time, like on my early 30s, I actually started to think that music would be my next life, let's say. So let me just open a little deviation in the topic, because I mentioned physics, and actually my first professional life, let's say, was astronomy. I
Hmm.
was teaching astronomy in a science center for more than 6 years, and then I changed to design, so graphic and digital design. And after working on it for some time, I thought, okay, I think my next direction would be music.
Hmm.
But it was just a thought, really, because I was still blocked, and I was dreaming basically every day, like imagining myself in uh, you know making music and going and having my own concerts, and it was just inside my head, like it was just a dream, really. I never took any action towards it.
Hmm.
It took me quite a while doing therapy.
Hmm.
So yeah, my therapist, after quite a few years with her, we addressed this topic, and then something started to unlock, and I started to feel that you feel that it's coming to reality. In the last few years, it was like that. It was like it's reaching the surface, but I still didn't take action, but you feel that it's going to happen at any time. And this time was actually last year.
Hmm.
um, it was actually something really personal. Like it was also a consequence of a lot of change, personal changes in my focus on how I behave and how I approach life, and this came together around. It was around May last year, so almost a year ago, a bit more than a year ago. I I felt like, okay, I'm gonna start buying gear. Like I bought a MIDI controller, keyboard, and I still had no idea what to do with that. But okay, I think I need that. I need an audio interface as well to connect stuff to the computer if I want to do anything. So I started to prepare my environment, let's say, and acquire some gear, and including these guitars that you see here. That I went on a shopping spree, and it was a bit difficult to stop. So, and it was it was in May last year that I made my first steps. It was like I started to experiment with digital audio workstation with GarageBand and then Logic Pro, checking how it is even to record and how things work. Like I was starting really from zero, watching YouTube every day, hours of YouTube to learn how to do stuff. And I started with making some tests with some cover song, and when I felt that I had some enough knowledge to start working on a real song, after a month more or less, then I started working on the song that became my first single, which was it was also a cover. I didn't want to go through the troubles of songwriting when I'm just starting, like it would be too much. So I decided to take a song that is ready and just put my own personality on that. And talking about personality, this was also one thing that I had no idea how my music would sound like. It was out of experimenting and checking the sounds and the effects and so on, and things started to become more concrete after while experimenting. You mentioned that you're not really, you don't really know about dream pop, shoegaze, and so on. 1 year ago, I didn't as well. Like I knew the bands, I liked the music, but I didn't know that it was this name, that this genre was called like that. I actually realized that when I had to sell myself, to put out myself, like, describe my music, and then I had to find which genre is it. It didn't start like, oh, I want to make dream pop music. No, it came after. Actually, it came from the inside when I felt that this is my voice, and then I applied to what I was making, to the music that I was producing. And so working in this cover of a song by the Secret Stars called Shoeing. After a couple of months, I realized that, okay, I think I can release something soon. I can put it out there. And it was always a dream of mine. Like all this, more than 10 years that I have a song out there. Like that was like something that I thought it would be a dream for the rest of my life, and now, okay, I see that this really can come true. So I set a release date, just like a project. Let's say I had to set my my scope with the time as well, because otherwise I would still be working in the song, because it never ends. Like we can always improve, we can always find something. So I had to find a way. Okay, this date, like I have to release, otherwise I will just get lost inside it. So it took me 4 months working in the song. I set the release date for my 40th birthday, and I finished the song around October, and in beginning of November I released, and that was my first single.
So why that particular song? What drew you to it? Why was it? Why was it the one? Why did you decide on Shoe as your first release?
One thing is that it's one of my favorite songs, and it's a song that I was very familiar with, like playing it on the guitar, for example. It's very simple song in terms of, I think it's one acoustic guitar and one electric guitar on the original version, and the voice. And it's just it's something that it became a target to me because of that as well, because it was easy, let's say, to reproduce, because it's just two instruments and voice. So I was thinking about this song for a while as something that I could record, but I didn't think at that time that that I had to put that through my framework, let's say, my voice, so modify it to sound like me. And that wasn't simple at all. there were like, I don't know, 75 layers of sounds and instruments on Logic to get the final result. But yeah, I think that the simplicity of the song, I think that's what made me decide to try this one.
So covering songs for me is an interesting topic because you oftentimes get cover songs which sound pretty much the same as the original. You can just feel, okay, it's a different band because maybe the guitars are tuned slightly differently, and the singer has obviously a different voice than the person who recorded the original, but it's note for note the same. Maybe even the songs last the same. Um, Whereas your cover is a totally different story. It's not a remix, of course. It's a cover, but it's a reinterpretation.
Hmm.
It sounds like a deconstruction of the original, as if you deconstructed it. You took those Legos apart and you built something that, for example, it's still a spaceship, but it looks totally different. So, what is your approach to? I know that because I'm wondering whether I can ask one particular question because I know that prior to Shoe In, you were actually working on covering a different song.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know whether I can mention the name of that song.
You can.
It was, okay, and I hope I don't make a mistake here because very often the words that are repeated several times in the chorus are actually not the title of the song.
But it is.
So yeah, you sometimes type in Google something like because you've heard it in a song, and it turns out that the title was actually completely different. But it was Hey
Mhm.
Ya by
Yes, by
Outkast, right?
Outcast, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the test song that I mentioned that I was working for like 1 month,
Hmm.
but that was really just to get familiar with the recording process and to using the software.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was the starting point, and then I learned the software and how to record vocals, guitar, and so on. Uh, making this test with Hey Ya by Outkast, and then I switched
Hmm.
to Showing.
But still, even though Hey Ya was a test, I think that if you heard it, if when I heard it, I could already hear your identity,
Hmm.
coming through the sounds, being visible and tangible. It was completely different than the original, totally different vibe,
Hmm.
different dynamic. So having that test song already behind you and having Shoe In, having released that, and maybe there are other, maybe you're going to have other covers in the future. I don't know, but what is your approach? I mean, was it just I'm taking it and I'm adding the sound? I mean, I'm creating the sounds that I just feel, or was there a particular goal that I want to make a cover and I don't want it to sound anything like the original. I want it to be completely different. And then, okay, my my approach towards music, my sensibility, I'm gonna put that in the music, but I want it to be different. I want it to be different, and now here's me creating something that's different than the original. What was your approach? What is your approach
Hmm.
to covering?
Hmm. I think there are two sides on it. First, how did I discover the sounds that I actually use? Like it was really by experimentation. Logic and GarageBand, they have a huge library of different instruments, and it was really trial and error. Uh, Playing some notes on the keyboard and going through the hundreds of things, and oh, this I like, this I don't like, and then narrowing down to the sounds that just it's a feeling again. Like it just okay, this sounds like something that is me.
Hmm.
And from there, then it's the thing. It's not that I want it to sound different. I just want it to sound like me because it's my song, my interpretation.
Hmm.
And it comes through deconstruction, as you said. It's like I take a song and I take the chords and I take some, the most noticeable elements, also the ones that are not so noticeable, but I just tear them apart. And sometimes I switch. I take something that is more on the background and put it on the first layer, like with a different instrument. So it's really about messing around with the elements of a song. One thing that it's not really possible to change is like chord progression, for example, because otherwise I would need a different license for that, like going to the legal thing. It's not a cover, a classic cover anymore. But yeah, the chord progression is the base of everything. But yeah, I just shuffle the importance of the instruments, and also the sounds that I choose are the ones that sound like me. Like it's like it's a PJOS song because it has such set of instruments and yeah, such mood. Yeah, that's how it goes more or less.
And when you don't have a label behind you and lawyers and managers and all that stuff, being just a regular guy who wants to make music, do you need permission from a band like the band that recorded the original of Shoe-In? Sorry, I forgot
Mhm.
the name because I'm not
The
familiar with
Secret
this one.
Stars. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you need permission to cover a song? Is there anything, it's like the what's it called? The intellectual property on that is
Mhm.
what's the process like?
I don't need a permission to make a cover because covers are compulsory. Like
Hmm.
if there's a song that was released, anyone is allowed to make a cover song. But to release it and to sell
Hmm.
it, then
Hmm.
you need a license,
Okay.
mechanical license. That's how they call it, which allows you to distribute the song and also to sell a certain number of copies. So this license is the price of this license. Let's say it depends on the number of copies that you want to sell. If you sell more
Hmm.
than that, then you have to update the license. It's first of all, selling, like people don't really buy music anymore when it comes to digital stuff.
Yeah.
So you can really start with the um, lowest value, and if you have to update, then this is a good problem to have. It means that people are buying your music, so just update the license, and it's actually much more affordable than people would think. There are
Hmm.
services that can arrange a license for you for $1, for $15, $18, and
Hmm.
then you have a document that allows you to distribute the song
Hmm.
whenever you want.
Okay. Because you've released your singles, so Shoe-In and Atlas, which we're going to talk about in a second. You've released them on, well, definitely on Spotify. That's the
Hmm.
platform I use, and that's where I listen to the songs. But have you released it on other streaming platforms as well? Because I don't really know how that works.
All of them. Yeah,
All of them.
it's everywhere. Yeah, when you use a distributor, you can't really, when you put a song out there, there are
Hmm.
places like SoundCloud and Bandcamp where you actually
Yeah.
manage it yourself.
Hmm.
But when you think about the streaming platforms, you need a middleman. You need a distributor. You can't just
Hmm.
send to Spotify, to Apple Music. No, it doesn't work like that. So and when you use the services, it's built in already. Of course, you can choose which, if you want to release only specific platforms, but there most of the time there's no good reason for that. You just tick the box like send everywhere, and they distribute to all streaming services that
Hmm.
they have partnership with, which are basically almost all of them all around the world.
Okay. So then, if I understand correctly, in order for you to be able to do that, you had to get at least the simplest license, this cheapest one,
Yes.
to be able to distribute the cover song, at least in this way, because you're not selling physical copies of it, right? There's the
Exactly.
CDs with the singles. Okay, got it. And how long did it take you from start to finish? Um, Okay, now the definition of finish. The moment that you felt, okay, I'm not going to be doing anything with this song anymore, 'cause it's going to take forever. So from the moment that you first sat down to it and started playing around with the sounds to the moment where you finally realized, okay, this is a done product. I'm okay with it. I'm ready to release it. How long did it take with
Uh,
Shoe In?
with showing 4 months.
4 months.
Yes.
Okay. And is the final version similar to what it was at the beginning, or is it a completely different animal?
Well, um, the first version is just usually just a loop of the main chord progression and the main structure of the song. So it's really just the bones of the song, and I iterate through that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like there were, I think, 60 something versions of this song,
Mhm.
and from zero until the final one during this 4 months. So yeah, it's I don't record like a demo in the beginning, for example. No, I work iteratively. I have
Mhm.
an idea of the structure, and then I build up from that until I think, okay, this is good enough. I think it's time to release it.
Paul, do you make your music in Scrum? Do you have? Did you demo it regularly to somebody? For example, Sandra,
Yeah, I have my tickets
Sabrina.
in Jira.
Sorry, don't tell her that.
Yeah.
Sabrina, my God,
But
I'm gonna cut
that's
that out.
okay. I know it's very traumatized. Like people like to talk about how Instagram is bad for mental health, but no one talks about Jira, right? So yeah,
No, no, they don't.
yeah. But actually, that's an interesting question because I actually approach making music as a project.
Hmm.
Um, most of the upcoming artists, emerging artists that I know in person, they have a hard drive with hundreds of unreleased songs that they never put out there.
Yeah.
I have nothing. Like I started
Hmm.
from zero, as I mentioned, and okay, I have a good idea on how to make this song, and I'm gonna start work on it from start to finish. And okay, that's good enough. Put it out there. Now next one, and then I go like that. So apart from what's already there and what's on the works now that is going to be released soon, I really have absolutely nothing, which is also not a good perspective about like playing live because it's going to take me maybe a couple of years more in the current pace of production that I have. But yeah, I need to. Yeah, I will keep releasing that. But yes, it's like that from start to finish, just like a project, more or less.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because actually my previous guest said that he has dozens of some initial versions, like demo pilot versions of songs stacked somewhere, waiting
Hmm.
to be dusted off a bit and picked up again. So yeah, you're totally different in that
Hmm.
department. So moving on to Atlas, your
Hmm.
most recent release. This is an original. This is not a cover anymore. This is 100% Paul O'Reilly.
Yes.
Where did that come from? So because taking somebody else's song and putting your soul and your creativity into it, I guess is slightly different than because you've got the base, right? You've got the basis for it. You've
Hmm.
got the fundaments. You strip down a couple of things, but you've got this the backbone of it. But here you were creating something totally from scratch. So
Hmm.
where did the idea for Atlas come from? What was the inspiration for it?
It started with the hook, so this little synth line that's that came to me. I don't recall exactly how it came to me, but usually I have such ideas when I'm like falling asleep or
Mhm.
just waking up. Like,
Mhm.
come on, I put the dream in dream pop, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, and
You're
it's
making it legitimate.
yeah, exactly. But it's interesting to mention because I don't feel like I created it. I kind of received it. That's how I
Mhm.
feel. It's like in these moments when I'm not really paying attention to anything, or when I'm falling asleep, for example. It's like the antenna tunes into something, and sometimes I hear an entire song in my head that I never heard before.
Mhm.
And yeah, sometimes I'm just too tired to get up and write write it down, and then just probably went to someone else. It's a song that wants to be released and it's floating out there. That's how I see that. But yeah, I had this little hook, and I started to build up from this synth hook. Um, it was my first song that I actually wrote, as you said. So then it was time to go into the troubles of songwriting, and it was something completely new for me to discover, like how to actually build a song structure and what kind of song structure is going to be, and write the lyrics as well. Then I drew a lot of inspiration from other dream pop artists, because most dream pop songs, they don't have your regular structure of intro, verse, chorus, bridge, outro. Like,
Mhm.
it's more like you have the instrumental part, and then the verse is in the middle, and then you have more instrumental. Like, the verse is sandwiched between
Mhm.
the everything. And yeah, so when I realized that, like, I could build the song structure itself. And yeah, it was a matter of iterating again. Like, I made some intro that builds up. I hear a lot of very important and influential people in the music business, and this people that they have actually a lot of good advices. But one thing about the streaming era is that people want the hook or the chorus, like, very soon in the song, in the first few seconds, or otherwise they're gonna skip.
Mhm.
I didn't want to fall for that. Like, it wouldn't be me. So my
Mhm.
intro really goes, my music, it kind of draws you into another reality, so it sets the mood from the beginning, and then it goes from there. So then I had this, I made this longer intro. um, when it was the lyrics actually came in the end, after the whole instrumental part was done. And it was my first time writing lyrics as well. I was completely terrified with how long it would take. I thought I wouldn't make it at some point. um, I had to move even the release date because of that. It wasn't. I couldn't get it ready on time. But yeah, then I decided to write about childhood trauma, and how this you carry this over your life. And also, it's a very personal experience, because when I had, like, my difficult situations at home, um, I had also not only hundreds of vinyls, but I had hundreds of books as well. My father was, collecting
Mhm.
encyclopedias, atlas, and so on. And this is where my passion for astronomy started. So I had my atlas books, and
Mhm.
I love maps. I love
So
astronomy
that's
because
where
of
it
that.
came from.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, and then it's a parallel of this atlas that was actually, the physical book,
Mhm.
and the fact that like you carry your childhood trauma on your shoulders, like, as a burden
Mhm.
throughout your life. Yeah, that's where the lyrics came from. Yeah,
Wow.
I guess that's it. And I want to mention one important thing, that both in Shoeing and in Atlas, Sabrina, my partner, she plays violin on those songs. And this was also something that it was just an idea in the beginning. Like,
Mhm.
let's try. Now, don't know if it's gonna work out, but here's the song. Play something like freestyle. I have this idea. The sessions they usually go like that. She plays like 5 minutes of the things that I ask her to, and then the other 15 minutes is just freestyle, and then I chop everything up and put into um, into an order of like, and then I add it to the song. And in Shuin, I think it turned out great. Like it gave a lot of character to the song. And then in Atlas, I repeated that, and I think now I'll have to do this all the time because it's like it became kind of a signature. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yes, I can 100% confirm that and vouch for that. The end result is incredible with the violin, so shout out to Sabrina. Great job. Um, Same question as I had with Shuin, because this being a Paul O'Reilly original Atlas, how long did that take? Was it easier because it came from some heavenly, universe induced inspiration, or was it more difficult actually than a cover song?
Both. It was easier in the technical part because I was already familiar with recording process and using the software, and also with the kind of sounds that I didn't need to create it from zero. I had like my a good direction to how to follow how to a direction to follow how to sound like a PJOS song, but it was difficult in terms of songwriting. That was like completely new for me.
Mhm.
So I had to explore this and find out how to build the song basically from scratch. This was difficult, but in total, this one took 2.5 months to be ready.
Mhm. Okay. So yeah, so it was quicker, but
Mhm.
does the difference stem from the fact that you were already familiar with the applications, the programs, with the technology, quote unquote?
I believe so, and also with a set of instruments and effects that I'm using.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I didn't want to explore all of that from zero. No, uh, one of my biggest concerns was that Atlas would sound like it's from the same artist.
Hmm.
Because I release one song, no, there's no reference, fine, but now there is a reference, and wow, like I could really screw up and release a song that, okay, but this sound it doesn't sound like the other one.
Hmm.
And this was something that I had in my mind all the time. And also, having my set of effects and moods that I wanted to direct the song. So this made it easier as well. And in the end, I think it still sounds like a pure song, even though it has quite different energy than the first one. But yeah, I think also it turned out well in this front.
So do you feel that having released those two tracks already, are you onto something in terms of having a signature sound?
I believe so. I believe that I can say that it is. I already have it.
Hmm.
The kind of mood that the song drives. Also, as we mentioned, the violin, and it's basically shoegaze or dream pop with strings. It could remind you of Sigur Rós as well,
Hmm.
slow dive, such bands. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think that I already have a signature, and I think it uh, increases the responsibility to keep to be true to that, yeah, on the next
Hmm.
songs.
Now, the last time that we spoke, you said that actually, I think it was Atlas, right? So Atlas got played on some quite prominent radio stations. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Because I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I got some airplay in Trójka,
Hmm.
Polish Radio 357 as well. Some other radio stations around the world, but the one that really blew my mind is Key XP in Seattle. This is one of the greatest and most influential radio stations in the world, and something that I also like. They have that iconic live sessions, and they play music that is reference everywhere. And to get my report here that my song was playlisted there on the radio, that was really mind blowing. Like just 6 months after my first single was released, then this is happening. Like it's quite crazy for me.
How did that come about? How did they get to you, or how did they get a hold of the song?
So I'm taking care of all aspects of my music project by myself, but including promotion, and this is relevant now. I went really hard on promotion on Atlas through playlisting, through ads on social media, and so on. And something happened after I broke the barrier of 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I don't know if people are watching actively, artists that are breaking this number. But I started to get some contacts from agents, PR agents, and radio plugging agents. So it was a matter of agreeing with one of those agents. They have their roster of artists and the songs that they send to their contacts in certain radio stations, and that was like when I learned how it works. Like these guys, they don't want to burn their contacts with music that they don't think it's worth playing somewhere. So they really carefully select who they want to work with, and somehow this guy really liked Atlas and he wanted to work with me. It's called High Violet PR agency. And then I was talking with Sean, which is the guy from this agency, and he started with 8-week promotion of Atlas. So this is how I started to get airplay on radio, also being featured in some blogs and so on, some magazines. But I want to mention something here, that the first airplay in Troika was actually from my own effort, because promotion is a very heavy topic, like in terms of amount of work that needs to be done. When I'm producing a song, I can, like, one day I need a pause, or today I'm gonna work only half an hour or 2 hours. But promotion, that once the song is ready, then I have to change my hat, and then it's like additional 10 hours a day sometimes of working before and after the release, preparing everything all by myself. And I came up with a strategy this time on how to promote Atlas and have a good kickstart. I boosted my promotion budget on the ads for showing, starting 2-3 weeks before the release of Atlas. So within Spotify, each artist has something called a popularity score. It's a mix of how many people are listening to your songs, how often, and also not only inside the platform but also on the internet. Spotify also searches the internet if people are talking about the artist, and so it is also influences your popularity score. So I boosted my popularity score by doing that, and then when Atlas was released, it would be just distributed for more people in the release radar, for example. And it turned out, and it worked, and it turns out that one of these guys that received in his release radar was a guy that has a show in Troika. I'm missing the name now. It's off something, but it's every Thursday, I think 9 p.m. or something.
Mhm.
his show, and then he liked the song and decided to play in his show. Yeah.
You clever beast.
Man, once you learn how
Designer,
the yeah, uh-huh.
designer, musician, and PR person and businessman. A man
You
of
know,
Renaissance.
man, once you learn how the algorithm works, then it's like, that's how, everything is governed basically in the digital world now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that there are some ways to pull the strings and put yourself in front. If you need to have, of course, a song that is good enough. This is the starting point of everything that I
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't work if the song wasn't worth it. But then there are a lot of steps that can take you to this point. Yeah, it needs a strategy, it needs a lot of thinking, trial and error until, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that it's working.
Cool. I mean, this is one of the, I would say, good sides of the internet because, as we both know, the internet, especially the areas of the social networks, social media, can be a real gutter filled with shit.
Hmm.
But the good side of the internet is that right now, every you know a person like yourself, an up and coming artist who does something in his at his home, right? But has something to say, has something unique to say musically. You have all platforms and all these possibilities that you can get your music out. Compare it to how it was 20 years ago, where it was either like take the metal underground scene. There was tape trading, so you would butcher your cassette players and recorders, copying tapes and sending them around the world, when there was no internet, and people trying to um, doing all sorts of things to get some small gigs in shitty clubs, things like that, just to get heard.
Hmm.
Because playing live is, of course, a different thing. I don't know whether you've thought about that, but we'll get to that. But even to get noticed and to get heard, right? You had to go out on the street, and work your way and fight for it. Whereas right now you have all these platforms, you have all these abilities. I think it's great, especially if there are people who have something valuable to show and to say and to contribute to the scene, regardless of the genre. So I think it's awesome, and I'm really happy for you that it worked out the way it did. Of course, it also took the effort from you, as you said. It was a like an additional job for you,
Hmm.
but it's awesome that it reached those radio stations. And yeah, I mean, it's just great. I'm really happy for you. um but yeah,
Thank you.
so touching on, so okay, maybe now going directly to the topic of performing live, maybe that's not the best time, because in order to perform live you would have to have more music.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the obvious question is, what are the plans for subsequent releases? What's next in store?
um, in a few weeks, there is something coming up,
Hmm.
and there was a release of Atlas in May, middle of May.
Hmm.
But I like to give other perspectives of my music. So actually, there will be an EP with two additional versions of Atlas. One of
Hmm.
them is being co-written with Sabrina as well, and it's
Hmm.
gonna be full orchestral arrangement. If
Whoa.
you listen to Atlas, there's a violin solo in the end, very end of the song, and that's
Hmm.
actually the start of the next song that
Oh.
brings all the orchestra and goes for 2.5 minutes or more. And the other version is what I call Distant Dream. It's
Hmm.
kind of slowed and reverb version, but with a twist. Like it's remixed, but with some different percussion as well. So yeah, it's it's a story. Like Atlas is about the story itself and how it was and how it is, and then the next version, the orchestral version, is the epilogue, how I
Mhm.
call it, and it's the closing the of the story. So it's like, okay, now everything is fine, like after everything that happened. And then the next is distant dream, that everything that happened is now like a distant thought in the past. So that's the
Mhm.
whole universe of Atlas, and then it's going to be released in a few weeks.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to work on a next song now. I don't know how long it's going to take. Having a full-time job and working on that, like it's really a lot. I wish I could release a song every like 2 months or something.
Mhm.
That would be my goal if I could, if I had time for that, but unfortunately I don't, so I'm limited on that. Right now I'm
Mhm.
releasing like 2, maybe 3 songs a year. And yeah, at this pace it's going to take a while to fill a whole set list for live performance. Well, that's what I can do now, unfortunately. I would love
Mhm.
to release more and create more, but at this moment there is just not enough time for that.
Okay. So the thing that you're going to be releasing, this Atlas EP, it's something similar. Then I guess it seems it's similar to what you've done with Shuin, because you've also released this subsequent single with these remixes. I think there's an instrumental version, correct?
Yes.
So it's I guess it's the same approach, right?
Yes, it's a similar approach.
Hmm.
Yeah, with Shuin, then I released like slowed and reverb, instrumental and sped up versions. This is a bit more elaborate,
Hmm.
because that other songs were basically, just slight variations of the main one, like the sped up, slow down, and so, or stripped down in terms of the instrumental. But this the epilogue version is like an actual different song. It's another song that is being co-written with Sabrina, and also this distant dream version is much more elaborate than a slow down and reverb. So yeah, it's something, a similar approach, but it's more it's a different kind of work. It's a bit more elaborate this time.
Hmm. Okay. So if I understand correctly, for now, until circumstances change by any chance, your approach towards releasing new music is going to be once every while you're gonna drop a new song. You're not gonna you're not gonna be working for a longer time and trying to gather them into an EP or a full-length album.
No, it's already difficult enough to
Hmm.
to make one song, a single song, and put it out there, and let alone an album. I would have to go silent for, I don't know, 1 2 years and before releasing something, and it's not my goal. But
Hmm.
also, um, the landscape of music release actually changed. Like now, it's much more beneficial to release singles if you are a new
Hmm.
artist,
Hmm.
because then you feed the algorithm, let's say, and you are, you
Oh,
know, and you keep the momentum, and you build audience and popularity on the streaming platforms like that, and
yeah. Hmm.
also people's attention span. Like for some reason, like no, people don't really have a lot of time to invest on listening to a full album. Not many people. Of an artist that is just starting, they don't know anything. So it's about also building the your audience and fan base through the singles, and then later maybe I can think about an EP or an album, but for a while releasing singles is the best strategy.
Then I guess I am a dinosaur. I am of a dying breed because I prefer complete albums. One example that comes to mind was there's this heavy metal band called Machine Head, and the last album that they dropped, I think it was 2022, of Kingdom and Crown. And prior to releasing the album, I think it was still during the pandemic, so 2020, 2021, they dropped one single. So they actually started with this approach of dropping individual songs from time to time. So they dropped one single during the pandemic, then another one. They then dropped this 3-song EP, and okay, it was fine. But then they got all the songs that they had released and they put it on the album with the addition of a couple of other songs, and it was a concept album and whatnot. But then getting the actual product, the album, there was no surprise anymore. It wasn't as exciting because they had been dropping those songs one by one. Then when I got the actual album and I bought it on CD, it was cool. It was a really good album. It was high on top of my list that year, but it just wasn't the same feeling anymore because I had heard those particular songs prior to it. So as a whole, as an album, it just didn't resonate with me that well because there was no surprise element. But I understand what you're saying. It's probably I mean, you're the specialist here right now. If that's what's more beneficial for up and coming artists, then yeah, I mean, just do it however you need to, just to get it out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it works now. Because there is the artistic part, but there's also the business part. And
Mhm.
if you wanna get your streams, get your following online and offline, there are some rules on the game to play,
Mhm.
and that's how these are the rules in this moment. So yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the times we live in right now.
Mm.
Just one last thing for entertainment. Would you be able to name, I don't know, let's say 3 of your favorite cover songs off the top of your head? Or would it be too difficult of a task? If so, then we can totally skip it. But I was just curious.
3 cover songs.
Yes.
Hmm. Can I
Difficult.
cheat a little bit and check my Spotify, because I actually have a playlist with them?
Oh,
Because
do you?
I
Yeah, I mean,
remember
by
the
all means.
songs, but I don't remember the artist names, so I don't
Yeah, yeah.
wanna be,
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
So let me just check.
Because
My
it
playlist is
just
called Control C.
I just thought about it because we're talking about covers and you recording a
Mhm.
cover. So I thought, okay, what are the covers that Paul O'Reilly likes?
So let oh this takes me back in time. There is a cover of Bizarre Love Triangle by a band called Frente.
Hmm.
Frent. I don't know how it's spelled, but it's also a really total deconstruction of the song, and it's just an acoustic guitar and a girl singing. But it's
Hmm.
very very beautiful, and I remember I was listening to that on like mid 2000s, and yeah, that's one of my favorite covers. There is a cover of Wonderwall played by Ryan Adams, and this cover is so good that actually Noel Gallagher from Oasis, he started to play his version in the concerts.
Oh,
Yeah,
the cover
yeah,
version.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
interesting.
His style, yeah, that was super cool.
Wonderwall, originally by
By
Oasis. If
Oasis,
if
exactly.
if, if the if
Um,
the if the title doesn't ring a bell for you guys.
yeah. Um, and finally, I can mention Heartbeats, who is the original. Oh
I
man,
don't know.
that's such a shame. Like a famous band that. Give me one second here.
I don't even
Okay, I can.
I'm not even sure I know the
Is it?
song. It doesn't ring a bell.
heartbeats. Mhm. I'll tell you in a second. It's by The Knife. Okay.
Hmm.
It's a rather popular song, but this cover by Jose Gonzalez, I want to mention it because this version became popular in a Sony Bravia TV ad,
Oh,
and in LA they had a like few trucks with thousands of that rubber colorful balls, bouncy balls,
mhm, mhm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
threw these balls on the hill, and they made like a lot of shots in different angles from that, and this song was playing. And this also
Yeah.
was something that I discovered many years ago, and this was my first connection to this song. I didn't know the original version back then,
Mhm.
but that was this is a song, his version really struck with me, and I really like it.
Yeah, I do remember that ad, but not the song. Yeah, I'll have to find that on YouTube. Okay, yeah, interesting. If I were to name my three top cover songs, oh my God, what would that be? Uh, just off the top of my head, I think there's a, I don't know whether okay, let's call them a band. I think it's a band. It's this two, I think I don't really know much about it. It's the two guys, they're from Norway. They're called, I'm not really sure how it's supposed to be pronounced. Roykshop.
Yes, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and they have the song, What Else Is There? In
Is it a
original,
cover?
yeah, there is.
Ah.
So the original is theirs, and it's with a female vocal, and it's been covered by also a Norwegian band, but
Okay.
it's a metal band. They're called Enslaved, and they have a song. So they covered it, and it's a mixture of it's poppy, but it's metal
Hmm.
with clean vocals, with all male vocals, clean ones and very harsh ones. So it's really interesting take on the original. The second one would be, I think it would be, oh my God, what's it called? Uh, Power Slave. So Power Slave is a song by Iron Maiden.
Hmm.
So it's heavy metal, but it's classic heavy metal in original, but it was covered by an American thrash metal band called Testament,
Hmm.
and it's got more edge to it, more power, and the vocals are completely different. It's a totally different take on the song. I mean, in essence, it's the same pretty much, but it's just more intense, giving it a different feel. And the last one, and I think a ton of people would probably mention it, but this is just such an incredible cover. It's Hurt,
Oh man.
originally by Nine Inch Nails, but
Hmm.
the interpretation of Johnny Cash. I mean, you
Yes.
don't need to know the original. It on its own, performed by Johnny Cash,
Hmm.
just literal fucking goosebumps. And
Yes.
the music video, him being,
Hmm.
being old, having, done so much in his life, the good, the bad, all the hardships, all the
Hmm.
experiences, everything that he's been through, the tough times, and you can see that hurts and the regret, everything that he's singing about on his face is just so
Hmm.
fucking powerful. Yeah, it's an awesome cover song.
I second this one as well. I love that. But
Yeah.
didn't Sepultura release a cover album at some point, or am I mistaken? Because I remember
Um,
Bullet the Blue Sky, right? That was such a.
the Bullet the Blue Sky was it was featured on a Sepultura album called Roarback, but I think it was a regular
Okay.
record
It wasn't a cover.
with
Okay.
original songs, but they did have that U2 cover, yes. And a
Okay.
long
Okay.
time ago, Sepultura also covered a song, a Brazilian song. I just know the title. I don't know who played it, who played the original version. The song is called Policia. I think it's by some Brazilian punk band,
Hmm.
and then Sepultura covered it. I remember that song is also featured on the Elite Squad movie.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not gonna even attempt to pronounce the Portuguese. name of the movie, but I think it was featured there as well. Don't know whether it was the original recording featured in the movie, but it was there.
Mhm.
Anyway, Paul, I've kept you here probably longer than I should have, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation, being here on I Smell Music. I've had a couple of musicians here already, and those were great conversations. But there was this additional, I would say, very, very open and very personal touch to the conversation with you. You speaking about your inspirations, the good and the dark sides of what was your inspiration and what led you to create music as PJOS. So I very much appreciate that, and thank you for being so sincere and open. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I didn't even notice when almost 2 hours had passed. So thank you very much for appearing on I Smell Music.
Same here. Thank you so much. I also really enjoyed, and yeah, thanks for having me. Really, it was really nice.
The pleasure is all mine. Yeah, I know that you're not going to be releasing song after song, week after week, but I loved what you've done so far. Both the singles. I'm really looking forward to this EP with the alternate versions of Atlas. We're really looking forward to it. So hope you drop that quick, and also looking forward to your next releases. I know it's going to be great stuff. So everyone, please go out there, Spotify, check out PJOS, check out Shuin, check out Atlas, and wait for the next releases, because I think, they deserve your attention. So Paul, I'm keeping my fingers crossed so that you have the comfort of releasing as much music and as quickly as you would like to, and not just as as the circumstances dictate.
Mhm.
So yeah, really, I'm really rooting for you, man.
Thank you very much for that, man.
Okay, thanks again. You and I will be in touch. Take care, my man.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Dziękuję wszystkim tym, którzy zostali z nami do końca. Dziękuję oczywiście mojemu gościowi za przyjęcie zaproszenia. Doskonale nam się rozmawiało. Uważam, że historia Paula jest zaiste inspirująca, już nawet pomijając aspekt muzyczny, ale pokazuje, że należy słuchać tego wewnętrznego głosu, nie być obojętnym na swoje potrzeby i te subtelne podszepty wszechświata, słuchać tych subtelnych podszeptów wszechświata, który gdzieś tam mówi nam, w którą stronę powinno iść nasze życie. Polecam Wam bardzo gorąco muzykę Paula pod szyldem PJOS. Są to cholernie klimatyczne numery. Link do Spotify znajdziecie w opisie nagrania i na moim Facebooku. Czekam z niecierpliwością na kolejne zapowiedziane przez mojego gościa wydawnictwa. W opisie nagrania znajdziecie również, jak zawsze, linki do nagrań i artystów, o których wspominaliśmy w naszej rozmowie. Na dziś to wszystko. Jeszcze raz wielkie dzięki, że byliście z nami. Trzymajcie się, uważajcie na siebie. Do zobaczenia wkrótce.